The talk of the town. Local talk, local issues affecting your hometown. On 100.7 FM, WUTQ.
7:13, heading up to highs close to 75 today, according to Jill Reel, our staff meteorologist from KTV. It's Dave, Jay, and Sam, and our first guest of the morning, Bob Cardillo, a professor from UC and Mohawk Valley. How do you get both gigs like that, Professor?
It's called adjunct.
A little double dipping going on there, huh?
Absolutely.
Yes. And
Both great schools.
What's your educational background yourself?
Well, I graduated from Utica College, and I have my degree from Utica College, and I have a law degree. It's graduated from law school in California in 1993.
Wow. Which law school there?
University of West Los Angeles.
Wow.
Yeah.
No stranger to the political world here in hometown of Utica.
No, not at all.
Run for mayor 4 years ago, is that right?
4 years ago, and then 30 years before that.
Wow. It's an interest of you, obviously, in the political realm with political science. We talked about the resignation of John Boehner on Friday, kind of a surprise. Was it a surprise to everybody, though? And what were your impressions of that?
Well, I think it was clearly a surprise the way he did it and when he did it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think it was a surprise to the speaker because it's really sad. I mean, I look at this and I think about my first job out of college from Washington. It was in Washington. I worked for Congressman Donald Mitchell.
Okay.
From Herkimer.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I was there in 1973. I watched the Watergate hearings. I've been blessed to have all of this experience and knowledge firsthand of seeing it.
Right.
But in 73, Republicans and Democrats got along. You know, they went out to dinner together. They liked each other. You'd go to Georgetown and you'd see these huge limousines and it'd be, US 1, US 3, US... They were all... It was Carl Albert who was the Speaker of the House.
Sure.
And Mike Mansfield and the Democrats, Bob Michael from Illinois. They got along.
Yes.
They don't get along now.
What happened? Why'd that occur?
First of all, I think, with all due respect, and I don't mean you guys, but the media has a lot to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't have journalists anymore. Mm-hmm. Everybody's an opinion maker. And we're such a polarized country. If you're right wing, quote unquote, you watch Fox. So whatever they tell you is the gospel. If you're on the other side and you're left wing, you watch MSNBC, and whatever they tell you, that's gospel. And it's opinion makers.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's funny because the way I talk to my students is I tell them, look, it's not my job to tell you how to think or what to think. My job is to tell you how to think, how to make your impression. Watch everybody, listen, formulate your own opinions. And it's just too bad because government cannot run one side or the other.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's the way we like to run our show here on the Talk of the Town is present all the different opinions and both sides of every issue if we possibly can and let people decide. I know that one of the news agency uses that phrase. I'm not sure they actually practice the phrase they use as we report, you decide.
You mean Fox.
Yes, exactly.
Fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced. But we like to think of ourselves that way. And it's interesting, you bring up about Boehner there, and he has alienated a lot of folks on one side of the aisle there, but
he alienated about 50 legislators that are totally off base with how to govern. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing to run a campaign. Okay, look, I've been in campaigns, I've run campaigns. I think campaigning is a great thing. Once you get through campaigning and you take the oath of office, now you have that one job, and that job is to govern.
Right.
And you can't govern from right or left. I love the real, and I'm a moderate. New York Republicans and New York Democrats are particularly upstate. We're moderates. Mm-hmm. We look at something and try to make a decision based on moderation.
Same here. I'm a Libra too. So
well, that's great. But it's funny because if you watch this gang of 50, which are the real they call themselves the real conservatives. John Boehner's a conservative.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
John Boehner's a conservative. He's a moderate conservative. He's pro-life. He's cut taxes, pushed for the Bush tax cuts. He's done everything he could possibly do. He could spit silver dollars at these people, and that's gonna matter because they think one way and that's it.
You think he's getting out because he's frustrated with the process? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think after a while, you get beat up enough, you're going to go, wait a minute,
And
I'm done. I've had, he served in Congress for over 20 years. So.
And now as they scramble to try to find new leadership, do you think this will pit the different factions against each other a little bit more?
It's sad because that's all it's going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, what's really amazing is that the Republican speaker needs the Democrats to get things done.
Right.
And I love, and this is the point I was going to make before, is it's very interesting that if you watch a lot of these really right-wing Republicans talk about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan governed moderately. Mm-hmm. I mean, he and Tip O'Neill got along famously. Tip O'Neill was the most liberal speaker you could find. He actually held Ted Kennedy's house, or John Kennedy's house seat in Massachusetts. They went and had a few beers. I was watching what do they call the mini debate? The smaller, the
yes.
four that were on.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you listen to Lindsey Graham, but Lindsey Graham said, "Look, I'm a conservative. There's nobody any more conservative than I am." But you got to get along. I mean, we could do all these things they want us to do, but the president's only going to veto it, and we don't have enough votes to override the veto. So let's try to see what we can get out of it until we try to take the White House back. Then maybe we can have some of these things done that everybody wants to do.
It's funny you say, because if you try to apply that analogy to what it goes on today, it's hard to imagine that even happening or folks even getting along, like you said.
They did. It was amazing. Sherry Bullard, my political mentor, and Sherry's back home. And we had Constitution Day last week or week before at MVCC. It was September 17th is Constitution Day. I apologize. I wish I had known you guys could have probably done the show there.
Yeah.
And Sherry was there, and I had Mike Arcuri there. Mike's also a good friend. Mm-hmm. Anthony Brindisi was there, and Yvonne Irvin from the school board. And Sherry and Mike both had the same interpretation of Congress now, that you can't function. And then I'm watching Anthony. And Anthony and Joe Griffo are members of the opposite party.
Right.
And these two guys are working together for the betterment of the community.
Sure.
They don't look at themselves as ideologically opposed to each other. Take your ideology, put it in a basket, hold it there for a while, because you got to get things done. You got to govern.
Sure.
And if you don't govern, we're not going to move forward.
Talking to Bob Cardillo, political science professor, MV and UC, here on the Talk of the Town, 100.7 FM WUTQ. Donald Trump was profiled last night on 60 Minutes. You rolled your eyes on that one there. He's a little extreme, maybe not the moderate that you were referring to before, or is it a case of maybe there is some moderation underneath the layers of bombastic behavior there?
Oh, no, I think he's got a lot of moderation. Mm-hmm. I just don't know where he's. I mean, look, Donald Trump. Look, he's a brilliant man. He's made a lot of money, mm-hmm. and it was funny because as I was watching the interview, everything he talked about revolved around this art of the deal and making money. And I love people when they say we're going to run government like a business. Well, it's not a profit and loss center. It's just not. Mm-hmm. As much as you want to think it is, it's not a profit and loss center. There are certain things that you have to do or we're compelled to do as a government, and as the country gets larger, and they refer back to the founders, well, we didn't have 350 million people from coast to coast. And I just think it's really difficult to watch and think how he's going to negotiate with Putin and negotiate with there's just so much that I don't know.
And Putin was profiled last night, too, during 60 Minutes.
I think he's a thug, but I watched him, and I thought he was pretty clever.
Yeah, well, they asked him if he was a thug, and he said, I used to work for the KGB.
Yeah,
How could I be a thug?
Yeah, and I was in the Soviet Union, in Russia, when it was the Soviet Union, for about a month on a business trip. And it's quite a unique place.
Hey, Bob, can you hang out with us for a few more
Absolutely.
minutes? It's Bob Cardillo. It's a professor from MV and UC. We've got more to talk about in just a few minutes here with regard to cybersecurity. And we've all been hacked, I think. Well, maybe not you, Jay. I think Sam and I have been hacked.
I'm in that.
You're in it, too.
And guess what? Bob's in there with us as well.
Right, so we're going to ask Bob about that, too. If you have any questions for him, 624-0870 is the telephone number, and the text line is 623-0373. It's 722 on the Talk of the Town.
The Talk of the Town.
Still hanging out with Bob Cardillo here, the political science professor from MV and UC, and talking about John Boehner. He spent a lot of time. He's going to get more time on the golf course now that he resigned, apparently.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
he is.
he's going to do that for sure. We were talking about Donald Trump, and then also you're an expert in cybersecurity, too. You talk a lot about that, and I guess Jay, myself, and Sam have all been dinged with the Excelis hack that happened recently.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that I'm an expert. We have a great program, cybersecurity program at Utica College. I was dinged twice.
Were you?
The Blue Cross, Excelis, and I'm a retired federal employee. So I was hacked twice within the course of a month. So,
How do you feel when a federal website has their security breached? Does that do you feel like this could happen again on some other type of level?
oh, if they, well, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because if you get into Hillary's emails and the server and all the stuff that goes on within the computer systems in the federal government, maybe that was the easiest one to hack.
Right.
I don't know. It's very, very difficult, very difficult. And somebody asked me yesterday if I had filled out the information for Excelis. I said, well, I even got the one for the feds. I don't know whether I want to give anybody any more information.
Sure.
If they're going to hack it, they're going to hack it.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm really not sure. It's just not a good thing. That's all. So
Talking to Bob Cardillo, a political science professor at MV and UC here on the Talk of the Town at 100.7 FM WUTQ. We were also talking about the Donald Trump appearance on 60 Minutes last night with Vladimir Putin and whether or not Trump would be a viable candidate for the presidency. And we were saying he may be sort of the flavor of the month, although you think that he's further ahead at this point in the polls than you thought he'd be, right?
every pundit around had him dead and buried 6 weeks ago, but he's still up. And the other one that's surprising me, too, is Ben Carson.
Sure.
I thought after he made the Muslim comment that but Donald Trump made the comment about John McCain, and it didn't hit him. He made the comment about Carly Fiorina, and it didn't hit him.
He's
He's
filling auditoriums, 20,000 people coming to see him all over the country.
We talked about this off air. I think if you look at the people that are ahead, which is Donald Trump, Ben Carson, and Carly Fiorina, the Republicans, they're totally outsiders. They haven't held office. Everybody else is either a governor or a senator. And even on the Democratic side, if you look at Bernie Sanders' numbers, most people don't even know he's a senator. So he's an outsider as well.
He doesn't look like a politician, that's for sure.
I mean, and he's a socialist.
Right.
I mean, he's an avowed socialist, but people don't even care. They're like,
They're
like
happy.
they just want people that are not in because they think it's dysfunctional. That's my take.
And the other point that we were talking about off the air was, will they hold weight throughout the whole run here? So
every pundit said that they weren't going to make it the first 6 weeks, and they're still into it.
Right. Well, Bob, interesting to talk to you about all this. Hopefully we'll have you back in the future on this.
Anytime.